Hi there, it's Q4 episode 9. We've got 4 more to go this quarter. Today we will be diving into the topic, Mission to the Powerful. Let's get into it. Have you ever had that feeling that some people are just hopeless? Period. Go on, have an honest moment with yourself. Maybe it was because of something you heard on the news, some podcast, or through social media. Or maybe you know someone personally who makes you think, this one, Mbano, lost. Well, this week's lesson is about a class of people who are frequently seen as hopeless most of the time. The powerful and the rich. If you're one of them, don't freak out just yet. Fortunately, the Bible tells us that God is also interested in your salvation. And if you are not one of this particular group, let's face it, you're probably wanting to join the club. So question is, how can we reach out to this group of persons within a sphere of influence? To address that question, we will be exploring some Bible characters whose names, or in some cases lack of a name, begin with the letter N. You are probably thinking Nigerians. Not really. I actually meant N for Nebuchadnezzar, a beneficiary of the humble bump, N for Naaman, a Syrian top dog, N for Nicodemus, the religious VIP in need of learning, and yet another N for a nameless, rich young ruler who needed to lose some kind of weight. We'll look at these characters, their interactions with God and His people, their response to the gospel, and then grab a few nuggets. Let's get into it. The first N is for Nebuchadnezzar, and he is an example of what happens when the powerful and arrogant encounter God because someone dared to reach out. Now, usually, whatever be the setting, secular or religious, whenever rulers or those in authority fail to live up to our expectations, it is natural to be disappointed, and sometimes this disappointment festers into absolute disregard and we write them off. However, this encounter with Nebuchadnezzar shows that though a pagan king, God was still interested in him despite his flaws. And unlike many other similar cases, God often depends on human agencies to reach these prospects of his. And that's where we're coming. In this particular encounter, it was Daniel, and his message to the arrogant king was, "He has shown you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of thee, but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God." For us today, we might not even need to quote like Daniel. It could be a word of prayer if we do not have access to the Nebuchadnezzars in our sphere of influence. It could be a word of counsel in season and out of season. Whatever you do, just do not back away. Someone has to reach them too. Paul puts it this way: how can they hear if nobody tells them? And how is anyone going to tell them unless someone is sent to do it? Let's get to work. And this takes us to the second N for Naaman, the Syrian general who was used to getting VIP treatments wherever he went. I mean, even the king of Israel felt intimidated when this dude shows up for his L therapy. That's a code name for leprosy. Only for him to go to Elisha's house, and the prophet did not even step outside to greet him. Instead, he sent his boy to tell Naaman to go take a bath. Where? In Jordan, of all places. You've got to be kidding me. Naaman must have felt so insulted at this point. No doubt, in his mind, this mission was over, aborted. No proud Syrian in his right mind would accept that humiliation. But something unique happened that put things in perspective. You see, Naaman had a good corner. He was surrounded by servants who would not hold back the truth, but also knew how to deliver the truth even if it was not popular in such tense situation. Because of their wise counsels, Naaman realized the real issues at stake here: his need to be healed and clean was far greater than his pride. You know the rest of the story. So here are some takeaways thus far. 1. Even the rich and powerful have needs too. Sometimes we can fix it, but some other times we may have to refer them to Jesus. We must be brave and caring enough, like Naaman's nameless Israelite maid, to identify these needs and refer them where they can get help at the feet of Jesus. Our third urn is for Nicodemus. This dude was a Pharisee, a religious leader, a custodian of divine legacies, who probably was a role model and an influencer. His resume was tight and would make it through any HR screening, yet he was more concerned with the appraisal of God. So he Nicodemously meets Jesus at night, and the verdict he got was, "You must be born again." Jesus did not bother him up because of his status among men. For Jesus, it is better to have the approval of God rather than the applaud of men. So he would rather be honest with Nico and spare him the pain later. We must do likewise when we relate with our powerful, learned folks. Speak the truth in love, even if it's so. When our last end walks into the sin, the nameless young rich man, he comes with a question: what must I do to inherit eternal life? And Jesus answers, leave your stuff and come walk for me. Unfortunately, though he was a lawkeeper, his heart was not in the right place, and so he sadly walks away. Problem here was not the wealth, since it is the Lord that gives wealth, but the state of his heart. His response to the question shows that his affection for his wealth seemed to exceed his loyalty to God, and that was the problem. What to remember here: 1. Wealth is great, and so is comfort, but loyalty to God, who gives both, should come first in our hearts always. 2. It is never okay to sacrifice intentionally building a relationship with God on the altar of pursuing wealth and comfort. Here is a quick recap. 1. Even the rich and powerful have needs that we can either fix or refer to God. 2. As the opportunity presents itself, always speak the truth in love, even if it's not popular opinion. 3. The applaud of man does not always translate to the approval of God. We should seek the latter rather than the former and encourage others to do the same. 4. Wealth is great, and so is comfort, but loyalty to God, who gives both, should come first in our hearts always. Please kindly like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you next Sabbath. It's your Sabbath School Doodle, doodling out.